Montana This Morning continues on Montana's News Leader.
The Alabama Senate race was decided Tuesday night, so why is the outcome still contested Thursday morning? I'm Brooke Silverbraga in New York with Roy Moore's continuing fight. That's coming up.
And what happens is that as bison are moving down to lower elevations, they will encounter a fence.
Coming up, an inside look at the management of Yellowstone National Park's bison. Our own Morgan Davies reports from Stevens Creek.
Meantime, just ahead of 6:30 on this Thursday, Chet Lehman, Missy O'Malley, Matt Elwell with you. Matt, right now, some really interesting and potentially dangerous driving conditions around there.
Interesting, that's a good way to put it.
The fog is ridiculously thick in places and the roads are super slick. So just not a good combination right now for Southwest Montana.
No, you're exactly right. You need to use a little extra time. Be prepared. Even if you don't see the fog at first, you may drop down into a valley and There it is. Yeah. And temperatures are cool enough that we could see some freezing fog. We do have some freezing fog advisories out. Most areas dealing with our visibility below a half mile in parts of southwest Montana. Temperature right now in West Yellowstone, 8 below. The rest of us holding into the teens and 20s. There's a look off of our iCam on the MSU campus. Yeah, it's pretty nasty out there, and not everybody is dealing with it. You can see pretty clear conditions in Butte this morning. We'll talk about that. We'll also talk about the potential of snow coming up. We'll talk more about that coming up here in just a few minutes.
Thank you, Matt. Just ahead of 6:30 again here on this Thursday, our top national story. Democrat Doug Jones says he won Tuesday's Alabama Senate race. Republicans and Democrats alike agree he's the winner, as does President Trump.
His opponent, though, Republican Roy Moore, is still not backing down from his claim that the result is far from final. Brooke Silverbraga has our latest.
The battle rages on.
Roy Moore, the Republican candidate for Alabama's hotly contested Senate seat, is refusing to concede defeat. Last night, he posted this video message.
In this race, we have not received the final count to include military and provisional ballots. This has been a very close race, and we are awaiting certification by the Secretary of State.
Nearly everyone else agrees Democrat Doug Jones won. Unofficial returns show him up 20,000 votes, or 1.5%. That's 3 times the margin needed to avoid an automatic recount.
When the President of the United States, who endorsed Roy Moore, calls me to congratulate me, I think he feels like it's pretty clean cut. Do the right thing, Roy. It's time that we heal.
Yesterday, President Trump not only acknowledged the loss, but also Moore's polarizing effect on the GOP.
Yeah, wish we would have gotten the seat. A lot of Republicans feel differently. They're very happy with the way it turned out. But I would have, as the leader of the party, I would have liked to have had the seat.
After Moore was accused by several women of sexual misconduct, many Republicans publicly withdrew their support. Some were relieved to see him lose.
I hope it sends a message that we can do better, that Republicans can do better.
If the current tally is certified, Jones will be sworn in January. Brooke Silverbraga, CBS News.
Now, even if an automatic vote recount is not triggered, Moore can still ask for one. In that case, though, this campaign would have to cover the cost of it.
In Treasure State headlines, many unanswered questions surround the discovery of the remains of 3 children in a Missoula shed in September. MTN has been told by Missoula police that investigators have a, quote, person of interest, end quote, they'd like to talk to about this case, but emphasize this person is not a suspect. A search warrant obtained by MTN News shows that police were called to a home, the 2100 block of South 12th Street West, in late September for the report of a discovery of possible human remains.
Loose teeth. There was what appeared to be bone from a lower jaw, and others that were not as specifically described, but I would call them pieces of bone. There was also rocks in this box.
A professor from the University of Montana Anthropology Department confirmed that the remains are 3 children, estimated to be between 6 and 10 years old, 5 to 8 years old and 2 to 4 years old at the time of death. A box containing the remains was discovered by a cleaning crew that was contracted to clean up the rental property after its tenant was evicted the week before in late September. After a search warrant was obtained, follow-up investigations revealed no evidence of a crime occurring at the property. Children's identities and the cause and manner of their death is now under investigation. Police officials say they are working with the Montana State Crime Lab and other agencies.
We are working with the National Center for Missing and Endangered Children and other missing person databases to see if that's a possibility. And we don't know that this particular case is isolated to the city of Missoula. We don't know where the bones came from, or if maybe they were transported from one area to another and ended up here.
Now, at this point, only a very broad time frame is available to describe how old the bones are. The anthropology department members say they are not ancient, likely modern, and there are no suspects currently, as police continue to investigate who the children are and the circumstances surrounding their death.
In other news, the Butte Fire Department is still investigating the cause of a fire that destroyed a business on Front Street on Tuesday morning. The fire was reported just before 11 a.m. on Tuesday to Ray's Heating and Sheet Metal at 514 East Front Street. Officials report the fire started in the rear of the warehouse and eventually consumed the entire structure. No one was in the building at the time of the fire and no injuries were reported. The cause remains under investigation today.
Now, the state of Montana has ordered the population of bison be managed when the animals migrate off federal lands to state lands outside Yellowstone National Park. Yesterday, MTN's Morgan Davies toured the facility the Park Service runs to manage bison population. She explains how the Interagency Bison Management Plan works to control the size of the park's bison herd.
This is a shared responsibility amongst all the IBMP partners.
Managing the bison population at Stevens Creek is hard work.
When operations are going, they're usually going in kind of a constrained time period. So we're often trying to move the animals so that they don't end up staying in the facility for long periods of time.
The current bison population is 4,800. The Park Service believes they will be removing as many as 900 bison this year, a process that begins when the bison migrate to lower elevations.
And what happens is that as bison are moving down to lower elevations, they will encounter a fence.
The cull happens in 3 parts. First, the bison are captured, then they're brought here to Stevens Creek where they're processed, and then finally shipped out to slaughter.
Economically, it's been a real benefit for low-income families. It's been a benefit for some of the tribal programs that rely on, feeding families in low-income settings.
The meat and the hides that are harvested from these bison are then given back to some of the tribes, one of these being the Salish Kootenai. As McDonald said, having that harvest is beneficial to the community, but he would much rather see only a bison hunt used to manage the population.
It's our preference to be able to treat the animal with more respect. And not that this isn't, you can see, there's calming devices here. But we prefer to be able to take the animal in the field.
For McDonald, seeing the bison population being managed brings up memories of the past, when the tribes saw the bison being shipped off their lands.
Made the tribes get rid of their buffalo herd and open up the reservation to homesteading.
When the buffalo hunt was lost from the tribes, they also lost a huge piece of their culture. But with populations being large in places like Yellowstone, being able to hunt the animal again brings great prosperity back to the tribes.
When you look at problems on Indian reservations, and you look at social fabric of the membership, restoring something of a bison hunt for tribal families is incredibly powerful.
The IBMP partners hope that one day bison population management will only be needed by a hunt. But for now, they are just trying to keep that conversation open.
Ultimately, what this gets back to is this idea of tolerance. And the MPS, what we're committed to doing is continuing a conversation about increased tolerance. ultimately we do want bison to be managed and treated as elk.
Reporting from Stevens Creek, Morgan Davies, MTN News.
Now, according to the National Park Service, last year a total of 486 bison were removed by hunting.
And it's a local version of Shark Tank. MSU's Jake Jabs College of Business and Entrepreneurship held its freshman venture pitch competition. 450 freshman students came up with entrepreneurial endeavors. They pitched the ideas to a panel of judges or business owners in the Bozeman area, as well as MSU teachers. It's not just a game, but an important test to determine a final grade for their semester.
This is the final exam, essentially, for our freshman students who spent this semester planning a business idea, and this is a competition where they're pitching to 15 local entrepreneurs to see if they might be able to get someone to be really interested in their idea.
Now, local entrepreneurs in the community selected 3 finalist teams to present their ideas. The panel awarded prizes for best ideas, best written plans, best oral presentations, and best poster presentations.
Very cool. Hands-on final. I love that.
Absolutely.
Putting all that education to work.
Brilliant.
It's cool stuff.
Way to do it.
Yep.
We do have to take a quick break, but we want you to stay with us in a moment. When Montana This Morning returns, it's been a sobering and somber 5 years for the families affected by Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting. Coming up, what the parents have put together to warn other communities about their own tragedy.
But before we head to break, let's check in with Nora O'Donnell in New York for a look at what's coming up at 7 on CBS This Morning.
Good morning. Ahead here on CBS This Morning, prominent men from producer Judd Apatow to restaurateur Tom Colicchio sit down with us to talk about the Me Too movement, what they think needs to be done to end harassment. We'll see you at 7.